Good evening, Coach. Good evening, Coach Reza. My name is Temitope Ibrahim, and I'm here to present my library management system database project, which is our Quiz4. So, we are giving a project on library management system database. So, I have my documentation on the project, which I'm about to present. This is the Word document we are asked to prepare. So I will start by doing the introduction. So I would like to, Coach, I would like to walk you through my library management system database project. So this particular system is designed to manage books, to manage members, to manage borrowing transaction, then to manage fines for defaulters, people that have borrowed book and they didn't want to return it. Actually, this project is based on library and book, to be precise. So I have designed the database. Then I used ER model, that's entity relation model. Then I created SQL table. So I will demonstrate some queries, how I generate my queries. I'm going to discuss everything on this project. So going forward, I would like to state my table of contents. The first place is my introduction, my database design, the table structure, SQL queries, implementation, then my conclusion. So I'll start by giving a brief information about the project. The project is mainly about books and library. Like you all know that books are borrowed in a library. So we want to be able to, I created a database to manage all the activities involving book borrowing in a library. So for us to implement this project, we have some tables that are meant to be in place for this database to function very well. So the tables are also known as entities. So the first entity in the design in the database is members. Members means people that will actually come to borrow books. Then the book itself, which is the major thing here. Then the author of the book, book authors, category, branch, book copy, borrowing, fine, and staff. Of course, people that will be working in the library that will provide services to the borrowers and all that. So these are the 10 entities in my database. Then moving forward, I try to state the relationship between these tables, which means, in other words, the relationship between the entities in the database. Like I said, these are my entities in the database. So the TBL means table. So anywhere you see TBL, it means table. So I'm trying to explain the relationship between all the tables in my database. Then this member table and the borrowing table, it has a one-to-many relationship. Of course, a particular member will come and borrow, so he can borrow as many books as possible. So the member table is the member table to borrowing table is one-to-many relationship. So the book table to book copy table has a one-to-many relationship as well, because a book can have several copies. Of course, if somebody produce a book now, maybe a book is published by Temitope Ibrahim, I can have so many copies in different libraries. So that is a one-to-many relationship. Then book copy has one book copy has one many-to-one relationship with a book table. What this means is that a book can have like 500 copies. Just a book can have 500 copies. Of course, it's just one book, but it's just like it has several copies. So that's the meaning of many-to-one relationship. Then the next one is book copy has many-to-one relationship with branch. Of course, there will be so many book copies. There might be so many book copies in a particular branch of a library. Maybe let's say there is a branch of our library in the downtown. We can have 500 copies of a book, a particular book in that branch. So that is a many-to-one relationship. So branch has many one-to-many relationship. A particular branch might have several copies of a particular book. So that's one-to-many relationship. Then table book has one-to-many relationship with book author. So a particular book might be authored by several might be produced by several authors. So that's a one-to-many. Just a book might have several authors. So that's one-to-many relationship in that case. Then author has many book author table and book author table has one-to-many relationship. A particular author might have several books that he has produced over time. So that's another relationship. Then the next one is book author has many to one relationship. Book author has many to one relationship with table table book table. Sorry, with book table. It means that so many authors can come together and produce a particular book. Sorry. Then the book author has many to one relationship with the author. Borrowing has many to one relationship with member. Of course, a member can borrow so many books. A member can borrow like 5, 10, it depends. So that is a many to one relationship. Table borrowing has many to one relationship with table member. Borrowing has borrowing table has many to one relationship with table book copy. Then borrowing has many to one relationship with staff table. Of course, a staff will be present at a particular time to to give out book or to borrow books to members, so to several members. So that's where the many to one comes in. Then fine has a many to one relationship with borrowing table. Why that one is so is because if you default in returning the books, you will be fined a particular penalty. So that's the many to one relationship. So um, staff and branch has many to one relationship. So what this means is that a particular staff, a particular staff, many staff, of course, will be in a branch. So there are so many staff that will be in a branch at a particular time. Of course, there can't be just one staff in a branch. So that's many to one relationship. So moving forward, I want to explain my ER diagram. This ER diagram is trying to um, explain to us the relationship between each entities. Like I said, I said entities are the tables in our database. So each of the entities, like we have book copy table, we have author table, we have book table, we have borrowing table, and all that. So if you look at this my ER diagram, let me start from this book author. You can see that we have primary key, we have foreign key. So from here, the book author table has a direct relationship with author table. So in here, you will see that this book author ID is a primary key, which identifies, a primary key identify a particular each row, it identifies each row in each entity or in each table. So primary key of this of a particular table might be a foreign key in another table. So that is how you see their relationship. That is how you see their relationship. So a foreign key means a unique identifier that will identify an element of another table in another separate table. So the foreign key is going to link the relationship between the table 1 and table 2. So you can see how all of them related to each other. You can see this book author relates to the table author. You can see how this book copy relates to the book the book table. You can see them. Look at this. There is a book ID here as a primary key, because this is the unique identifier that is identifying all the elements, all the rows in the book table. But when you come here, it is a foreign key here, because book copy table has its own primary key, which is copy ID. So coming here, this book ID inside this book copy book ID inside the book copy is a foreign key. So this is another key. Book copy here is a primary key. So it's another key that is identifying, is not served as a foreign key in another table. So you can see how all of them relate to each other. That is why we use all this diagram to show their relationship, how they related to each other. That is how they links to each other. That is how they relate to each other. So this is my ER diagram. We have 10 entities here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 10 entities in total, and they are all related. One relates to another. So the ER diagram is showing the relationship between all the entities. So moving forward, we are asked to prepare our sample data. So for each of the entities, that is for each of the table, I try to create sample data for each one, but we are asked to create at least 5 rows for each one. So you can see here, this is my member table. That is member coming to the library to borrow books. So we have a member ID, we have their first name, their last name, we have their email address, we have their phone number, we have their address, the registration date, then their membership status, like are you active, are you suspended, has it expired, and all that. So we have a table book. This is a book table. So our book table has ID, it has a ISBN number, the title of the book, the category, publication, publisher, then the total copies that is in the library at a particular time. So we have sample data for author too, author table. We have sample data for book author. We have sample data for category. We have sample data for branch. So all of them, I try to make sure that I put at least five data sample in each table. Then the book copy table, we have 5 data too. This book copy has a copy ID, which is the primary key here. It has book ID. This book ID is a foreign key. The branch ID too is a foreign key inside this book copy table. So we have borrowing table too. We have the borrowing ID is the primary key. The copy ID is a foreign key. The member ID too is the foreign key. So we have the borrowing date, due date, the return date. So these are the things, the staff ID, which means the staff that process the borrowing to the member and all that. So these are important information that must be in the table for the database to function properly. And this is my find table. So this is the find ID, which is the primary key. This borrowing ID in the find table is a foreign key that will identify the member, the particular member that borrowed the book. Then this is the amount that the person is meant to pay if he didn't return the book as at the time you are meant to pay it. So what is the reason for the fine? This is there are some that are late return, lost book. So these are our sample data. So actually this one will make all our queries run effectively. And then we have a table for staff. Of course, the staff ID, the staff that gives out the books. So we have that one here. The staff ID, which is the primary key, their first name and last name, their position, the email address, their phone number, the branch ID, that is a foreign key too. So this branch ID in the branch table, it will be a primary key, but in another table, it will be a foreign key. So it's trying to identify the data in the first primary, in the previous table. So that is that. Then the higher dates of the staff. So those are the sample data that we have there. So moving forward, we are asked to create some SQL queries. So having done my sample data, putting the table in a proper shape whereby we can query it and something will return. So we move on to queries. So this query, the first one is we want to try and find all active members. So what do I need? First of all, I have to look at it. They say I should look for active member. Okay, let me go to my database and query it. What is the first thing? I have to get to my member table first. Then I will select I will select member ID, their first name and last name. I want to know the active member, their email address. If I need it, it's not compulsory. Then where am I getting this information? That is where this syntax form comes from. I'm getting the information because they said active member. So of course I'm getting the information from member table. So where? So this where is like filtering. we are trying to filter our database to get a particular information which says active member, where membership status is equal to active. So if I run this, all the members that are active will come out. So likewise, the second query says list all books with their category. So I select book ID, title, category from, of course, from the book table. Then I join it on a table category. I join table category on category ID, where category ID is equal to category ID. I'm trying to join two tables here. I'm trying to join book table and category table. So what I'm trying to do here is that I'm trying to bring a foreign key of one table and another table, so that by the time it's bringing the information, it will bring the right information from both table, the book table and the category table. So count of book by category. So I select category name, count, of course, book ID as book count from category, from table category. This C is an alias. So we are using this as alias of category. Then left join book on category ID is equal to category group by category ID. So group by 2 is a form of filter when you are trying to do your query. Add a new book. So if you are trying to add a new book, this one is a different syntax entirely. Like maybe we just got some books into the library that we are going to put them into this data system. These are the syntax that we use. Insert into them, we do all this, then we'll be able to insert another book, a fresh book into the database. Then another query is find members who have overdue books. So of course, when you hear all these things, you said member, you have to go to the member table. So select member ID, their first name, their title. You can just do their first name and last name, whatever the question says. So from the member table, join borrowing on member ID. So while we are joining this, we want to know the members who have overdue books. It means that the member has already borrowed the book and he has not returned it. So that's why we are involving borrowing table in this instance. That's why we are involving borrowing table in this instance. I want to know the member and the book they borrowed. So at a particular date, so just any date you want to put, so that you know the number of days the person has actually defaulted. So if you want to join all these tables together, there is a particular key that will be bringing them together. So we'll try and get the key. That's why we are saying join on borrowing table, on member ID and others. So those are the syntax that we bring all the things that we want out. List the top 5 most borrowed books. So this one, of course, is a book table. We used book table, then we use borrow table, because we are saying is book that we are borrowing here is a library management that we are doing here. Then they mentioned borrow. So of course, the first two table is book table and the borrowing table. So limit 5, we just want to see 5 of those things. This one, all these limit 5 are like a filtering. Order by 2 is like a filtering. You are trying to filter your information from descending order. So we just want to restrict the information to the first 5. So that's why by limiting, you don't want maybe like 1 million rows. No, you are limited to 5. That is the query that we issued out. So finding member who have never borrowed a book before. Of course, this one will be member table, the borrowing table. Then where borrowing is none, where borrowing is none, which means the borrowing has not occurred. That's the meaning of that. So we calculate the total fine collected by month. Of course, this one will involve fine table and all that. Then those are the query that we issued out. Identify branches with most value available copy of specific book categories. So this one will involve category table, branch table, book copy. Then find author with books in multiple categories. So these are the commands that will bring out the explanation to us. So moving forward, the database was implemented using SQLite. So creating our tables with SQLite, I'm going to change my slide now. I will move, then I'll come back to come and do the conclusion. So we are asked to create a Google Colab. So, so creating tables in SQLite. So these are the commands for the table creation in SQLite. So I say create table, that is create table, member table. So what are the things that I want to put in that table? So those are the things I wrote here. The member table, of course, is an integer. Integer means number, like 1, 2, 3, and all that. And it is a primary key, which is an onto increment, like member 1, the next number will member 2, member 3. So it's an integer and it's a primary key, is a unique identifier identifying all the rows in the member table. So of course, first name, last name. Of course, when names are text, they are not integers, they are not float. So not null. Not null means when we are creating this table, we must not we must put name. There it must not be empty. That is the meaning of not null. It must not be empty. This first name column must not be empty. Last name column must not be empty, and it must be text. That's why you have not null there. Then the email must be unique. It means that you might not, since they did not put anything there, we might decide to leave the column blank, and we might decide to put something there. It depends on the question. So membership status. So active, expired, these are the things they want us to put there. So moving forward, create category tables, the same thing applied. Category ID must be an integer, which is a primary key identifying all the rows in this category table. And it's also an auto incremental, like you say 1,000, then the next ID is 2,000 and all that. So the category name must be in text and it must not be empty. That's the meaning of non-null and it. Then we create the book table as well. Book ID is the primary key, of course. So the ISBN test is unique. Title test, the title of the book, that's the meaning. It must not be empty. The category ID in this book table is a foreign key because this book ID is the main primary key. So this one is another, is a category ID is a primary key in the category table. But in the book table, it serves as a foreign key. So for us to be able to combine, it means for us to be able to combine information from two tables together, we need a foreign key. So you can even see it down there, foreign key, category ID, references, and all that. So that is how we did it. Create author table. This is the author table. Like I mentioned earlier, author ID is the primary key. Then first name, not null. It means that it must not be empty. There must be a value in there. Then birth year integer like a number. Nationality must be text. Biography must be text. So on, so on, and so forth. So we create book author table, many to many relationship. We create branch table. This is the branch of all our libraries wherever they are located and all that. So the branch ID is the primary key. The branch name, it must not be null, so it must have a particular value. All these phone number and email address, it depends. There's no instruction as to maybe they should be empty or they should have a value. So there's another, this manager ID is a foreign key in a branch table, where branch ID is the primary key. So those are the syntax for creating all our tables. So you can see all the command. These are the command for creating table in the SQL. This is how we created the tables in the SQL. So this is the last one, the staff table, create staff table, then staff ID, which is an integer, must be a number, is a primary key. First name must not be empty, last name must not be empty, and they must be in text. Position must not be empty. Email address, we are not told maybe it's empty or not. So branch ID integer. The foreign key here is the branch ID. The primary key here is the staff ID. This branch ID here is a primary key of the branch table. But in another table, it's not serving as a foreign key. So lastly, I will go back to my conclusion. So the library management system library project demonstrates a comprehensive database design and implementation for managing library operations. What are the library operations? Borrowing of books, and the system stores information about books, members, borrowing, fines, payments, and provide various SQL queries to demonstrate database management function very well. So with this question, the database can effectively track books, the availability of books, and penalties meted on defaulting members. So what I've learned about this project, I've learned how a database, how a database functions. I've learned relationship between entities. Then the most challenging thing for me on this project is trying to get how to draw my ER diagram. It gave me tough time, but at the end of the day, I was able to find a software that I used. Then trying to connect the relationship is a whole lot of work, but at the end of the day, I was able to do something, come up with something. And I hope you enjoy my presentation. Thank you so much, Coach Reza. Thank you. Bye.